Nobody taught you how money actually works. Not your parents, not your school, not your job. And here's the brutal part. That wasn't an accident. A population that understands money is a population that's much harder to exploit. You're working, you're trying, maybe you're even saving a little. But somehow, every month, it feels like the finish line just moves further away. You look at your bank account on a Tuesday and feel that quiet dread, not panic, just that low hum of anxiety that says something isn't adding up. You're doing everything you were told to do, and it's still not working. Here's what no one tells you. The rules you were handed about money were written for someone else's benefit. Today, I'm going to give you a completely different map, the one that actually leads somewhere. 1. Why you were never taught this. So, let me start with something that kind of blew my mind the first time I really sat with it. In 12 plus years of school, most of us learn how to calculate the area of a triangle, identify the parts of a flower, and recite the periodic table. Genuinely useful stuff, right? But nobody sits us down and says, hey, here's how a credit card actually works. Here's what happens when you only pay the minimum. Here's why your purchasing power is quietly evaporating while your savings just sit there looking innocent. I remember being 22, my first real paycheck, and feeling rich for about 4 days. Then rent hit. Then the credit card bill. Then I realized I'd bought coffee every single morning that month, like I was auditioning for a lifestyle I couldn't afford. The problem wasn't that I was irresponsible. The problem was that I was financially illiterate, and nobody had ever told me that was even a thing. Here's the hard truth. Financial literacy is treated as a luxury, not a right. The people who grew up around money, around dinner table, conversations about investments and tax strategies and compound interest, they got an education the rest of us never had access to. That gap, it follows you. It shapes your career decisions, your relationship, stress, your health, your sleep. Money problems don't stay in your wallet. They travel. So if you've felt behind or confused or like everyone else somehow got a manual you never received, you're not failing. You were just never given the tools. That changes today. 2. The foundation: income, expenses, and the gap between them. Okay, so let's get into the actual mechanics. And I want to make this simple because honestly, this stuff gets overcomplicated on purpose. Personal finance, at its absolute core, is about one thing: the gap between what comes in and what goes out. That's it. Everything else, investing, credit scores, retirement accounts, it all lives inside that gap. Think of your income as water flowing into a bathtub. Your expenses are the drain. If the drain is bigger than the flow, well, you know what happens. The tub empties out, and you're standing there wondering where the water went. Most people, when they first try to get their finances together, focus obsessively on cutting expenses. Stop buying coffee, cancel Netflix, pack your lunch. And look, those things matter a little. But here's the part that gets quietly skipped. The drain has a ceiling, but the faucet doesn't. You can only cut expenses so far before you're living a miserable life. But your income? Theoretically unlimited. That's the mindset shift. The goal isn't just to spend less. It's to widen the gap. More in, less out. And then, crucially, doing something intentional with the difference. So step 1, before any investment app, before any budgeting spreadsheet, know your numbers. What actually comes in each month? What actually goes out? Most people have a vague, optimistic guess for both. Sit down. Look at your actual bank statements. It's uncomfortable. Do it anyway. 3. The budget that doesn't feel like a prison sentence. Now, the word budget makes people want to close the tab. I get it. It sounds restrictive and adult and vaguely depressing. But here's a reframe that actually stuck with me. A budget isn't a punishment. It's a decision about where you want your life to go, written in numbers. One of the most beginner-friendly frameworks out there is the 50-30-20 rule. Roughly 50% of your take-home income goes to needs: rent, groceries, utilities, transportation. 30% goes to wants, the stuff that makes life worth living, dining out, hobbies, travel, and 20% goes to savings and debt repayment. Now, will those numbers be perfect for your situation? Probably not. If you're in a high cost of living city, your housing alone might eat 50%. That's okay. Treat it as a starting point, not a verdict. The point is to look at your spending with intention rather than just watching it happen to you. And if you find a framework that genuinely helps you, that makes these concepts click in a way that finally sticks, hit that like button and subscribe, because we're going to keep going deeper on all of this. And you don't want to miss the next piece of this puzzle when we talk about why saving money alone is actually a trap. 4. The savings trap nobody warns you about. Here's something that sounds counterintuitive. Just saving money isn't enough. In fact, if your money is sitting in a standard savings account earning, let's say, 0.5% interest per year, and inflation is running at 3 or 4%, you're losing money in slow motion, quietly, while you feel responsible for putting it aside in the first place. This is the savings trap. You're doing the right thing, and the system is still working against you. This is where the concept of investing enters the picture. And before you close this tab, thinking, that's not for people like me, stay with me for 1 second. Investing isn't just for people with a lot of money. It's actually how people end up with a lot of money. The most powerful concept in personal finance is compound interest, and it's almost criminally undersold. Albert Einstein allegedly called it the 8th wonder of the world. Whether or not he actually said that, the math is real. When your money earns returns, and then those returns earn returns, and those returns earn returns, the growth becomes almost irrational over time. But the catch? It needs time, which means the best time to start is now. Even small, even imperfect, just start. 5. Debt, the weight that follows you everywhere. Let's talk about debt, because for a lot of people, this is the biggest obstacle between where they are and where they want to be. Not all debt is created equal. There's what people call good debt, things like a mortgage or a student loan, that, theoretically, build long-term value. And then there's high-interest consumer debt, credit cards, payday loans, buy now, pay later traps. High-interest debt is basically a fire in your financial house. Everything else, saving, investing, building wealth, becomes almost pointless until you deal with it. If you're paying 22% interest on a credit card balance, you need a guaranteed 22% return on any investment just to break even. That's not a game you can win by ignoring it. The two most common strategies for tackling debt are the avalanche method, paying off the highest interest rate first, which saves the most money mathematically, and the snowball method, paying off the smallest balance first, which gives you psychological momentum. Honestly, the best method is whichever one you'll actually stick to. Progress beats perfection every single time. Here's what I want you to walk away with today. You are not behind. You were never given a fair starting point, and that matters. But understanding money, how it moves, how it grows, how to stop it from disappearing, that is a learnable skill. It's not luck. It's not talent. It's just knowledge, applied consistently. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not as large as it feels right now. It's filled, mostly, with information you just haven't had access to yet. Start small. Start honest. Start today. The version of you who figured this out is closer than you think.